We're very fortunate today to have Linda Stanhope and Kim Turnbull with us, and Kim is currently a health science teacher there in Texas, and I believe she's a nurse by first profession, and then she's been a health science teacher for 18 years. And so she was very fortunate to co-author a book with Linda Stanhope, and Linda's background is clinical laboratory science, and she taught health science in Texas also for 24 years. So you do the math on that. That's a lot of experience for health science right there. So you're in for a treat. And with that, I'm passing the microphone to Linda and to Kim.
Hello.
We are so excited.
We are. We're glad that you joined us.
So we don't mind questions in the middle. And Kim and I do have one bad tendency of like literally going until the bell rings. So it really is, we have no problem with you guys asking questions in between because generally we just kind of keep going. So, all right.
Okay.
So let's get it started.
Yes, we will. So we're going to start off with the first little activity. These are actually, this little snippet here is an example of one of the medical term scavenger hunts that we have in the textbook. But basically what it does is it introduces the real life scenario that could be happening. These can also be developed on your own, but this might be a great way for them to dive into the textbook and find these different word parts and terms, regions for this one right here, and then also a ton of abbreviations. And so it kind of brings all of what they're going to learn to a big fat little example in its real life. And so this is how something might be charted in real life. And so the assignment is you read it, and then the highlighted terms, you define those terms. This gives them an opportunity to take a look and say, oh, okay, so CBC is a complete blood count. Kaposi sarcoma is a disease process very common in AIDS patients that develops, in the integumentary system and can actually affect the whole body towards the end of life. So it's a very cool tool to begin your medical term.
So I know one of the things that was really big at our campus is that you were to have like a hook each day that you would try to get the kids kind of involved in. And a lot of days, my hooks were something very similar to that, giving them some kind of case study or scenario that would get them going. One of the other things Kim and I love to do in our class, we call them brain breaks, because a lot of the students that we had taking our midterm class were sophomores or freshmen, and about 15 minutes into lecture, they would start to get the glaze over the eyes type of moment. And so when that would happen, we would stop and just give them a little proposed question out there. Have you heard about, have you seen? Hey, let's talk about this. You want to look into that. And so in our actual book, we called one of these sections Ponder This. And so it was an opportunity for kids to really just kind of think about it a little bit deeper. Let's stop and investigate something fun, and just a brain break from the general root prefix suffix. This particular one that we're doing obviously was with the digestive system, and we were talking about the procedure called the capsule endoscopy. And letting the kids kind of, formulate that there's this pill that's got a camera that's going all the way through. How could that, help physicians and healthcare workers in the diagnosis and treatment of that patient? So, and of course the kids, they get kind of silly sometimes and they're like, so what happens to the camera at the end? But it really allows for some really great dialogue. But you could do this with any chapter. Pick out some piece of technology or some really current research that's going on and just pose that question, like plop it up on your PowerPoint, like as a middle brain break moment, and, kind of get your kids back on focus on what's actually happening, and it's really relevant material. However, it's not what you've been doing, so that you can regain that that power time.
And it gives them the opportunity to share some of the ideas that they may have too.
Yeah. And sometimes they have heard of these things and they'll tell you stories about their grandmother. So, you know, that's always a fun moment.
Yeah, I remember when. So one of the other things is when you're talking about what's happening in the midterm realm, you always have the different careers that are associated with each of the chapters. And in the nervous system chapter, we've included the mental health aspect of it, which is so much needed right now. One of the big things is that we have to kind of check in with ourselves, make sure that we're okay. And then, you know, once we're okay, we check in with others. But the career spotlights are really going to be those go-tos where when you're talking about the different med terms, the systems, the anatomy, disease processes, how you find out, how you diagnose, and that sort of thing. It's not just nurses and doctors. There are several other team members that, you know, there's an option there. And so it's really a great way to investigate the different careers. And in that little snippet of information gives them an idea of maybe how long they might have to go to school, you know, what it may look like in the workforce. You know, I really thought I might be a nurse, but, you know, I think I might end up being a lab tech. And, you know. so great ways to start up the conversations on careers.
One of the other things that we like to do is basically we put in with a lot of our careers, we start talking to our kiddos also about maybe doing something with HOSA. You know, even though it's a medical term class that we're talking about, that we're teaching, I think what we really want to stress to anybody that's watching today is that the activities that we're using in medical terminology are really activities you can use in any of your health science classes. They're good general teaching techniques. And one of the things that, you know, with anytime you're talking about careers is that you want to help the kids kind of investigate those a little bit at a higher level. And one of the ways that we do that is we use the HOSA event preps and have our kids kind of go through and use some of the HOSA competitions that we actually utilize in class and help the kids kind of gain a little bit of knowledge about HOSA, but also that, you know, there is a bigger world out there, and, you know, just testing the water, letting them know that they can test the water out there safely through organizations such as HOSA.
Right. And there's really something for everybody, because if they're more on the individual level and they want to do something by themselves, there are things for them too, especially the individual tests, maybe even the skills, the healthcare skills. But if they're more in the social world and they like a team, there are team events. And so there's something for everybody. So we highly suggest that you tap into that resource, because a lot of the rubrics are already built and you can just pull those in, and you know your activity is already sitting right there, and you can grade accordingly just by that rubric that's already prepared. So it's a really nice tool to get them interested.
And any one of the chapters you could use, like health career display, etc., or pull out those particular ones.
So, you know, in our classrooms, it's so much better to get them up out of their seats and really kind of live the dream. And so this little lab right here is talking about how you would feel if you were walking in the patient's shoes, literally. And so this little lab, you know, kind of gives the ideas of, well, if they had breathing problems, give them a straw and maybe a compression binder, maybe some wrap or something, and see how that feels just breathing through the straw or with a wrap around them. Another day might be good, if you have a lot of the canes and walkers sitting around, get out the canes and the walkers when you're talking about the ambulatory system, and use the canes and walkers, and maybe have just a little bit of a race going on there. For the hemiparesis or the stroke, tie down your limbs with some old torn rags and restrict the movement and see how that feels. Vision, cheap readers, Vaseline on their glasses, sleep masks. For arthritis, you've got tape fingers, rice or popcorn kernels, and disposable gloves in your socks, just to feel how those maybe neuromas might feel. And it is real, I'm telling you. Sensory perception, thick gloves, blindfolds when they're picking up small items, just, for fun. And then earplugs. This is huge, because now in this time, especially when we're wearing masks, and if you're hard of hearing, it is so hard to know what somebody says, because you've got two things against you. Number one, you can't hear. Number two, you have a mask. And if you're a lip reader, you have no idea what's going on. So this is kind of a fun little activity to use, just to kind of understand what people might be going through that are more mature.
When we do this, we have them do, tasks that, people would do on a daily basis. So, if they're doing have arthritis, have them try to open a pill bottle, have them try to grab and put toothpaste on, a toothbrush. So just daily activities, but it really helps them understand and have more empathy for the patient. Mm-hmm. Dig deeper. Okay. So sometimes we just want to have fun with our kids. And we like to do labs, and there's no reason you can't do some really simple labs. One of the ones that we placed in the book this time is going to be where I have asked my kids to hypothetically think how long it's going to take for a piece of corn that they eat to actually come through. And so I've got them working in groups, and they actually eat the corn. And they propose their hypothesis. They talk about every place that the corn is going to travel and all of the enzymes that are going to touch base with it, and estimate the time that before they actually see any evidence of the corn. So it's actually pretty fun. So we like to do we like to do a lot of fun activities that help really bring this science to life, and at the same time help the students understand the terminology that they're using in this class. That, with understanding that terminology, it's going to make them a much better healthcare professional.
Absolutely, especially when there's corn involved. Okay. A couple of the other things that we have really kind of done as like showstoppers, where like Linda said, sometimes they get the glazed look, like, okay, I'm done thinking, I'm not really paying attention. All right, so stop that moment, and we're going to do a little student challenge. So this one is basically kind of like a little written scenario. So after you've talked about the different positioning and what you would use them for, you're going to throw out these little client scenarios. And so for someone that client A, he's short of breath and needs a breathing treatment, what's the best position you would put him in? And so sitting there thinking, okay, so I've got my choices there. Got lateral prone, supine, high Fowler's, knee chest position, or the Sims position. Well, okay, so it's probably best if I sit up. So it's going to be high Fowler's. Yay, right answer. So this is just something that you can kind of give them to help them solidify what that term means, as far as what is lateral. Oh yeah, that's the sideline position. That's my enema position. Okay. Or client E getting ready for a colonoscopy. And it kind of comes together. So if you can get those scenarios to go with the terms, and they can just kind of get it settled into their brain just a little bit better. This is perfect for CNA. You know, this textbook is actually very good as an excellent resource for different classes because it kind of pulls everything together. I mean, it could go with theory very well. It could go with the principles of health science very well. It could go with med micro actually several times when they do some research, but this textbook is a great resource when you're trying to think, what am I going to do for this activity to reinforce? And so this specific lab goes really well with CNA.
Or CMA, any kind of practicum, actually.
Right.
So
this is a great math problem. And you know, students love math, don't they? Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So in the clinicals or in the classroom setting, personally, we just did this for the past 2 days. We started this Friday. I'm telling you, they did not like it. They are just freaking out. They're like, math. Oh no, I can't do math. And so you have that mental block. Well, you know, when you actually apply the real life thing with the practice of, okay, so you've got a person that is super sick and their heart's not working, their kidneys are not working. So we have got to monitor what goes in and what comes out. Okay. So this is your short little example. We've got breakfast, we've got lunch, dinner, and then other medicine intakes. And then you've got your fluid that are going on. And so you give them a little graph and they plot where they're supposed to plot it. Like at 8 o'clock, you're going to plot your coffee, orange juice, Jello. At lunchtime, you're going to plot, you know, your iced tea and your chicken broth amount, and so on and so forth. And it helps them to understand that math is really not that tough. When you've got the application sitting right there, it can make sense. We, in the instructor's manual, by the way, we do have answers just in case you need a little help with that tutorial with that.
Okay, while you're taking a breath, I think maybe you just answered that because Jessica and I wanted to know, was there a teacher's edition? And you said something about an instructor's manual. Did I hear you say that, Kim?
Yes, I did. So the instructor's edition will have, anytime we have a question that's kind of popped out there, there is an answer in the teacher's edition.
yeah.
And then is
So
there
like
a workbook with this?
I'm sorry.
There is.
There is a
Yes.
workbook.
Oh,
And-
yes, there's also a workbook that goes with this. There's also online material. We're gonna tap into some activities here in a second. And so that's also an option. If you have that online resource, you can do some games and you can do some other things on there as well. Mhm.
Okay,
So-
and you said, are all these activities in the textbook or some of these? Or
In the new one in 2.0, it is in the
Uh-huh.
second edition. All of these are in there. We do, I mean, and you know, a lot of these you can just utilize in any class period, you know, any class that you're doing. But like what we have done is the footwork there for you do have the answers. So like the ponder this that we were discussing a minute ago about the endoscopy. You know, we've already given the teacher the answers that, you know, they're going to need to see. So they don't have to go in and do the research beforehand. So that's a really nice thing for the teacher edition. But once again, these are just great teaching strategies that you use with pretty much any course that you're teaching health science, bringing it to life, making that world of medicine real for those kiddos.
Mhm. Okay. All right, we're going to move forward here. Okay, so on this one right here, this team challenge, we have almost one of these types of team challenges in every chapter. And basically, once they learn the prefixes, suffixes, and root words for the beginning section and are introduced to that, they've done their flashcards, whatever tools you have them do, Quizlet or whatever. Then soon after that, they end up having to practice building a term. And so we were in the muscle chapter and those two little terms were sitting there, I would tell my students, so you're with this person and this person, so this group, and, pair your students up, and you have 1 minute to come up with those two answers. And of course, you can have an incentive for those who answer quickly. You can do, I don't know, some Stanhope bucks if you want to. Linda will talk about that in just a little bit, where those Stanhope bucks are worth some points, extra points on a test or whatever. Or you could have little things like stickers. My coworker has stickers and straws. They love stuff. And so, our class is all about stuff. And so you would give them just a couple of minutes to figure out study of the muscles is, whatever that is, and study of movement is whatever that is. Okay. And so when they get the first person or the first team that gets that answer, you would have winners. Okay. And extra points or something good for them to use. Okay.
Other team challenges that we use, and Kim, uses those, and a lot of it's 2 in a minute, but as the kids progress, because actually the muscle system is one of the earlier chapters, as the kids progress throughout the year, it starts having to be now 4 in a minute, that they're working on together, or, 8 in 2 minutes, or something like that. So we've got those just periodically. Once again, great brain breaks, just to bring them back into the, if you've been discussing a lot of pathophys and they're just like, okay, I need just a breather here, type of thing. Some other team challenges that we put in there in every chapter or whatever. Like I said, we have little experiments or whatever. Some of them are done as teamwork. Some of them are done individually as a student challenge. And some are done as whole classroom. But the team challenges in this particular one were actually looking at the density of the bone and the strength of a bone and how strong it is. And yet it has to be lightweight. And so what we've done is we've given kids instructions on kind of making some fake bones and to test those theories so that they can understand how a bone can be really, really strong, even though it is very lightweight. Otherwise, we would all weigh way more than what we currently do. Our body mass index would not look good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hang on. Uh-oh.
Did we lose power?
Don't think so. I'm just stuck here. Let's see if we can end screen and then move forward with that one. Let me move forward with this one. We're going to present. There we go. Okay. There. We're just going to go with that one. Okay. Search the source. So this might be a great activity at the end of a chapter. We have search the source pretty much on every chapter, but it's an extension in learning and to be able to kind of think outside the box, go check this website that's reputable, gather this information, and then bring it back and do your presentation. This one is from the immune system, and it talks about the Ebola. And so we went ahead and added the answers from the teacher's edition in there, so you wouldn't have to go looking, but the questions are the ABC part of it. And then the answers are actually in the yellow highlighted areas. And so you would find those answers in the teacher's edition, in the per chapter in the chapter resources. So these are kind of fun for the kids to do something just a little bit different and research something that is in the news and ever changing and just kind of fun.
Yeah, it's a great way to do current events.
Mm-hmm.
Diagrams. I use a lot of diagrams. And so basically what I've done with my diagrams is I've taken a copy from the workbook and made a diagram, and then I placed it into just a paper protector sheet. And so what I have my kids do, they come walking in, and one of my bell ringers or hooks that might happen in the beginning of the class is that the kiddos are going to, we've already discussed the diagram the day before with all of the little arrows and talked about its function. And so now I'm really wanting those kids to implant those words and make them precious, take them from short-term memory into long-term memory by writing it. So I let them work together with a partner. They're working with their shoulder partner. And they're going to work together with their shoulder partner to see how many of these they can answer on a diagram drill that next day in class. And that first day, they'll only have to know maybe like 14 out of the 20. But it's a really great learning strategy with kids for medical terminology, because they are talking about the word, they are spelling the word, they are writing the word. I'm going to put the diagram up, and I am going to show them the word, say the word. They will be checking their paper so that, it's like they've gotten exposure in, less than 10 minutes to that word at least 3 times with 3 different teaching strategies. And so the next, all the kids that got like 14, those partners, Kim was in reference to what I use, what I call a bonus buck. This is my Stanhope bonus buck. But essentially what it is the kids can use this. It's just a fast little reward. And I will hand them one of these, and they can get an extra point on a test, or they can get 5 extra points on a daily grade. I have a lot of kids that they panic if they make a 95 on a worksheet. So they want to use a bonus buck so that they can get this. This is the easy way for Mrs. Stanhope to do extra credit. Mm-hmm. So, but these are great. Then the next day, they're going to have another diagram drill. We'll do that like 3 days in a row, where each day they have to get more and more of them correct in order to get the bonus buck. By the end of the week, then the kids are actually ready for a quiz on their own. But my students have all said that is one of the best teaching tools for them to actually learn those terms and the placement of those terms. It's great if you know what a medical term is, but if you don't understand that where it's located, then you've lost something there. So I feel like it's really important that my kids actually understand where you find that piece of anatomy, as much as what that anatomy is doing. So anyway, so that is a diagram drill. I use lots of models in my class. You can buy like the little bitty miniature models from like NASCO, or you can I borrow all the time from the like biology teachers, the great big old torsos. And generally there's like multiple biology teachers on a school campus. So they're generally happy to go ahead and let me have a couple of them. And then my kids will have the bigger models. If your budget allows, you can order some of those too. There's a lot of the miniature models, like the individual hearts, like I said, or like, the little body I was showing you there, that you can order and maybe have like one per table for the kids to look at while you're talking about it. Okay, we also make models. You guys have probably seen this, but this is, of course, one of the ones that we use for like building a little lung. And it's just used from all household products. There's a balloon, a straw, glove. This is a Gatorade bottle. We had lots of Gatorade bottles at my campus because Gatorade is one of the drinks that they allow in the vending machines. And my kids just make their own model. One of the places we have lots of little model designs that we actually put in the book, but another place that you guys can go is Pinterest. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but there's a Pinterest for teachers. And you can go in there for Pinterest for teachers and literally kind of put in a model for, and it might give you, step-by-step examples. The kids really, that helps them, understand in this case, the importance of, what the diaphragm is doing. Otherwise, diaphragm was just a muscle. They really weren't understanding the function of a diaphragm. So.
Okay. All right. So this screen talks about little quizzes that are in our resource. Your textbooks will have those available. These are very, very small, short, to the point. And so after a certain amount of context, they go back and they revisit that content. And so they're great for walk in the room and you do little bell ringers. It's great for as you're walking out the door, your exit tickets and that sort of thing. And so those are actually built in your instructor resources, where you've got little snippets of your quizzes that kind of check for understanding, just to make sure they've got the content. And really, anytime they've got that glazed over look, you could actually kind of pop that one in, and there you go. And so it's a great way to kind of bring them back, just to make sure that they've understood the content. Skills. Okay, so this is something that we felt very strongly about with adding to the 2.0 version. A lot of it had to do with each chapter has its own special skill set. So Linda's going to talk about this one, and I'll talk about the next one here after she's finished.
So essentially what we looked at is like easy skills that you could help get the kids interested in, and that were really easy for, didn't really matter necessarily your background, that they would be easy for any healthcare worker to help their student understand. So for instance, visual acuity, this is one. And so we've literally given the directions, and the kids are going to stop and they are going to do a visual acuity, on each other, just like what they would do if they were a nursing assistant or certified medical assistant, whatever, in a doctor's office. You don't even have to generally, the items that we're using are going to be something that would be really easily and available to any teacher. If you have the budget and you can order a chart, that's awesome. But even if you're not able to order a chart, it's really easy just to go down to the school nurse and ask her if you can borrow them for a day. Place a piece of tape on the floor and grab an index card, so it's really easy and fun for the kids to do. It's not very time consuming. And the skills, the reason that the kids got into a health science course is because they want to get their hands dirty. They want to help people. They want to see what it's like out there in the real world. I love career and technology. And in that sense that we give them a piece of that real world at this early age. And so you can do these really great little activities. And so we have tried to place those in every chapter. Sometimes there's 2 or 3, other times there's just one, kind of depending on the chapter.
So, so this one is, of course, in the special senses chapter, but just to kind of let you know, there are some skills that don't have any extra materials needed. All they need is the wall clock and their fingers to learn how to take a pulse, or the wall clock and their eyes to know how to count breaths. And so we've kind of helped you out with minimal materials needed as you go through these processes with the skills. And it really is a great step, just kind of a stepping stone for them to begin to learn how to do some of these skills, and then it gets them excited for the next step as well. Okay, our favorite chapter is the endocrine chapter. I'm just saying. So this is just one of those little snippets where you kind of stop what you're doing in the inquiring minds. This is an activity, and just to kind of think a little deeper. And I know that not all of your students may be female, but most males have a mom to deal with, or maybe some sisters, but it's kind of fun to talk about PMS. And so it's one of those things where, okay, so I'm acting this way, but why am I acting this way? And so this is one little snippet of an inquiring minds that you might have time to put in to your endocrine chapter.
or your reproductive.
Yeah, and we have guy stuff too. So okay, now we're going to show you a little resource that is included in the online section. And these are the games. This is one of our favorites. So this is from chapter 11. And so this is from the endocrine chapter. Oh boy. Okay, so if we click on this, maybe you divide your class in half. One side is this name, one side is this name. So you got Bert and Ernie over here. So Bert's team goes first. And so your question is electrically charged particles that help maintain homeostasis in the body. I'm gonna pick electrolytes. Let's see if I can get it right. Woo! Yeah, okay. So this is more like your fun little challenging game. And this kind of comes at the end of your chapter. And it's a great little way to review the chapter. So let's go back to see other activities.
These are actually student activities. So the kids have access to doing this from their own computer. So if you are doing, suddenly had to go into online learning again or something of this sort, all of these are just at the kids' fingertips also.
Okay, and here's your labeling. And so we're going to see how we do with this. I'm not going to do all of it, and I'm guessing at things right now. I may be doing it wrong, but I'm just going to kind of plug things in as we go. Ooh, I'm not real sure about the brain. That shows how long I've been studying that. Okay, we got a couple more to go, and then we're going to check our answers here. Let's see how we're doing. Ooh, check. Oh, okay. So I got a couple of wrong. Oh yeah, well, obviously. Okay, all right. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to get out of that one. Okay, so we're going to.
But it's safe for the students to practice over and over.
It really is. Okay, so to go back,
just click out a student activity there at the top.
At the top.
Yeah, the top X. Okay. Top X. Sorry.
So I've got a little.
Keep going over. Keep going over. Nope. Keep going over there.
Okay. All right. So the matching game is something else. Okay. So you've got a really good way to check their knowledge base on this one right here. Okay. And then my personal favorite is the spelling. So acidosis. So let's check this out. Acidosis. And then we're going to check the answer. Woo! Got it right. Okay. Well, that was lucky. Okay. All right. So, but this is kind of a fun little way to, stop and maybe do some different things with your games. Okay. And this.
Okay, you're taking a breath. Just a moment. This is from Amy, and she says she teaches fundamentals of health science as well as emergency services. What would I need to purchase for me to use some of these resources in my class, just for the teacher to have and to incorporate into our current lessons? Textbook, teacher guide, workbook, online enhancements. Just need to know how much to ask for. Ask for the sky, right?
Ask for the sky, I know. And so I know that we have some GW representatives within our little area right here. They may be more expert to answer that, but Linda, do you feel comfortable answering that piece of it?
I would think teacher resources, teacher workbook, kind of thing. But once again, they can guide you more with like the different like packages or whatever that would work best for a classroom setting like that.
Okay, Amy.
So at the end, we'll give you the GW.
Yes, we've got the contact at the end.
Yeah, and Amy, if we knew what state you were in, we can hook you up with, there you go. There's a
representative
link there. Yeah, and then Stephanie Stark says, how does this system allow you to see how many times the student goes in for the online quizzes and reviews the items? Or does the system allow to see how many times the student practices the online quizzes?
That's a good question. That would be a question for our GW representatives. So
Okay.
if you're listening, Stephanie, Mallory, Abigail, if you can help us with that, maybe in the chat and answer that question. Linda, do you know the answer?
I think it would depend on the LMS system that you're using, on, you know, how you wanted to set that up. If they could just go in and do it one time, or if they had an opportunity to do it just time after time. So I think the settings can be adjusted. I just, I am not a techno guru on how to do that. Sorry.
Okay. Abby's put some information in the chat.
Thank you, Abby. Okay. All right. Do we have time to move on, or do we need?
Yeah, you have another 10 minutes and then maybe
Awesome.
5 minutes at the end for questions.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So whiteboard protective covers. Okay, Linda, you want to show them your
I'm going to
whiteboard?
show you, this is something I do all the time with our kiddos, Kim and I both. And this is a great activity with any of your classes.
And really and truly, anytime they can write down the term when they practice with these whiteboards, it helps. And you all know this, you know, if they make their own flashcards and they write it out, it gets it better in that little brain of theirs.
Okay, so Kim, you want to click a button? They're still
yes.
seeing.
I'm so sorry. Yes, maybe I'm going to have to exit out and go to the next.
Sorry, it got stuck again. It's like, I'm still seeing that.
There we go. We're stuck, but we're not. Okay, so here's my term, Linda Stanhope. So do you have the answer for me? You've got 5 seconds to show me what gastroenteritis is. Yay! And the answer is inflammation of the stomach and intestines. Good job, Linda Stanhope. So
and once again, I've just used these sheet protectors, and this one you'll notice was actually on the back of my diagram sheet. So I have whiteboards, you know, just sitting at the tables, easy access for the kiddos, dry erase markers. We have old t-shirts, which are going to be the cleaning of the board so that the kids can be ready for the next term. And you can make it a game as in a competition, or you can give them all a, you know, everybody has 30 seconds, and at 30 seconds, hold up your board, but you can instantly see who really is understanding the term and who's not. Or you could just be walking around the classroom and looking at their boards while it's laying on the desk, whatever kind of works for your teaching strategy.
Okay, so this would be our second term. And if they put bladder, hernia bladder, they would get it. Now to switch this around, and this is actually part of our end of the chapter exercises. We have word surgery, and then a little bit harder practice is the word construction. And so if we have this definition sitting right there, then they know inflammation is itis and joints is arthur. So if they put those two together, then they should get arthritis. And the second one would be, oh, I'm sorry.
I think we ran out. We decided to go short on that.
We did. Okay. So flashcards.
But those are really easy to do. And you can just, once again, if you get the, you know, glazed look, you can stop and do some drill practice with your kiddos. I usually stick them on a PowerPoint, so I've got them ready for any class during the course of the day to just pop up. Makes it really easy. So, okay, so flashcards still, you know, still a really great way. And we've got flashcards that you guys can print off. Of course, there's a lot of flashcard games, but I do flashcard races with my kiddos, and essentially at the table there, the kids are going to have a caller because all my kids know that at the table, somebody's A, somebody's B, somebody's C. And so I've placed on the board who's the caller for that day. and they're going to pull from the back. And so once they see the card, cephalo, whoever says head first, the caller is going to hand that card to that kid. That's how we're going to keep score. So this one says arthro. So the first one that says joint. So that's how you keep score. I also use them like with drag races where I've got multiple teams like standing side by side to see who can get as many cards as quick as possible. So we've given you like step-by-step instructions, but you guys have probably all used flashcards, but they're a great reinforcement and they're a great filler when you've got just that 5 or 10 minutes left in class. Some other computer games. Kim, you want to tell them about the computer ones?
Yeah, so you're probably very familiar with the Quizlet app, but Quizlet.com. You can build your flashcards and then you can actually play individual games with that, but then you can also do a competition with Quizlet. Kahoot, you build the question, you have your choices, and then the little song plays in the background, and then your question pops up, and then whee, the winner is. And so that's really fun too. But my coworkers have discovered the new one called Book It, and it is fabulous. So you can upload your data to the bookit.com, and it's a free, we just discovered this. I did anyway, just this week. My coworkers have been using it for a while, but basically it's a lot more competition. When they get the answer right, they can actually steal points from their competition. So they'll take a look at who is in the lead and they'll steal points. Oh my gosh, be sure and close your doors because it gets really loud in your classroom, and then they get hooked on this. Oh my word, it's so much fun.
So, practicing those words, practice makes perfect. Diagram cards, will you go ahead and click, Kim?
Okay.
So in our, I used these all the time with my ESL kids and just some of my other kids that had issues with trying to learn terms. They were very visual learners. And so it would really help to have diagram cards. In our Goodhart Wilcox has been gracious. And in our second edition, we've actually placed those for teachers as printouts. So we're super excited about that edition this time around. But you guys can do it with any of your chapters you're doing. Play-Doh, you guys have probably all heard of playing with Play-Doh. There's no reason you can't play with Play-Doh when you're using medical terminology. I will take balls of Play-Doh and this becomes like Mr. Potato Man. We've got potato surgery where we've given you a little storyline about what happened to Mr. Potato Man. He was in a car wreck. He's got to have chest tubes and, different surgeries and procedures done. And, but the person they're working on is actually a piece of Play-Doh. So you can use it in so many different ways. And if you guys haven't had a chance, I know next week, Starla is going to be presenting at the curriculum conference. And she's amazing when it comes to using clay in any of your lesson plans. So take a look at one of her sessions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Fly swatter, the all-time favorite in the classroom, along with Book It, of course. And so the look of it actually is like a grid. You put your terms up there. There are 2 teams and you call out, say if I called out new, then the team members with the fly swatters would have to slap the board where it says Neo. And so the team that did that first would get the point. The kids go wild over this. They love this. One of our other second favorite is actually an oldie but a goodie. We've actually brought back in bingo. And so they were wondering why we hadn't done this just the other day. And so we had them create their own bingo card. And then, 10 minutes left in the classroom, they pull out their bingo card and we study for their next test. and they look at us going, why aren't we doing this every time? So so remember to plug back in the bingo. It's super easy. They get to make their own card. And so the games. It's just so much fun. Okay. All
All
right.
right. Just wanted to mention really quickly, guys, sometimes I know you think with medical terminology, we can't ever do field trips, and it's a 1-hour class in most of your areas. But think of looking at sites such as like the CDC. They have a bunch of fun things. MD Anderson, they will actually do a virtual field trip with you guys. You have to just go to their contact information there at the community outreach. And they do like virtual, field trips. So just wanted to kind of put that out there that you guys could possibly do something like that. It doesn't have to be always a practicum course or principles. Maybe your midterm kiddos would like to take a field trip.
Mm-hmm. And if by chance you can get speakers into your classroom, that's a really good way, with their specialty. If your school allows it. I know it's kind of hit and miss right now, but it's always good for somebody else to come in and talk about their specialty. The kids have different ear or different voice to hear, and they love hearing about this. Okay, so one of our editors has asked us to share this. If you are going to be in person at the National Consortium Health Science Conference next week, she wants to lead a session, and it is an informational session. There's 2 different times. It's going to be on Thursday. One's at 3 o'clock, one's at 4 o'clock. And I think if you participate, you get into the drawing for a $50 Tango gift card. So, but Mallory is your contact there. So her contact is right there. I'm going to circle her contact if you are willing to do that. She might even, if she's on it, on the chat, she might even say something about that right now in the chat too.
Oh, thanks, Nancy. She said the flyer is actually going to be emailed.
Oh, so. Great. And so this brings us to the end of our time, and Linda's contact is sitting right there. Mine is, and then GW's contact is right there too. So can we field any questions right now?
Does the printed textbook always include online portions? Yes, it does. So even if it's a printed one, the kids would still have access to like the student activities that are online, etc. But a lot of teachers are using the digital, so it just kind of really depends on what works for you. But there is an online component for either one.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question about consumables. Are they consumable? I'm not sure what exactly she's referencing. And then, okay, I think Abby answered that. And then is there cost per student a year?
Yes, and that's going to vary whether you're using the digital or whatever you're doing.
And I think sometimes you can do a contract, possibly maybe like a few-year contract. I know that's and that's just, depending on what your need is, your need base. So contacting GW specifically might be your best option for that.
Okay, well, look how you did. You taught right up to the bell.
We were afraid we would. We actually, yay, we made it to the bell. So we didn't go over the bell.
Yeah.
Someone did have one question, like, where do programs get funds for books?
That's really going to, in Texas, it's actually from the Carl Perkins, that's where they're getting their funding from their CTE directors.